Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a huge issue in healthcare, falls in older adults. Now, for years, the logic has seemed pretty simple. Stop the pills to stop the spills. It makes sense, doesn't it? But what if I told you the best science says that simple answer is actually wrong?
First, let's just wrap our heads around the scale of this problem. Every single year, a staggering 1 in 3 older adults experiences a fall. Yeah, this isn't some small thing. We're talking about a silent but massive public health crisis.
And the financial toll? Whoa. In the US alone, the medical costs tied to these falls add up to about $50 billion a year. That's billion with a B, a massive strain on the whole system.
So what's going on here and what can we do about it? For a long time, doctors and researchers have been pointing the finger at one prime suspect, something that seems like an obvious place to start: certain prescription medications.
They even have a name for them: fall risk increasing drugs, or FRIDs for short. These are pills that can mess with your brain or your cardiovascular system, causing side effects like dizziness, drowsiness, or that head rush you get when you stand up too fast. You know, the kind of things that are a perfect recipe for a fall.
And just take a look at this list. I mean, these aren't some rare, obscure drugs, right? We're talking about super common medications for things like anxiety, pain, blood pressure, depression, stuff millions of people take every single day, and a lot of them have no clue they could be raising their risk of falling.
So, just how common are we talking? Well, it's pretty shocking. Get this, one study in Switzerland looked at patients who were already known to be at high risk for falls, and they found that a full 75% of them, 3/4, were on at least one of these drugs when they showed up at the hospital.
So to try and get a handle on this, experts came up with some clever tools, like something called Stop Fall. It's basically an evidence-backed checklist that helps the whole medical team, doctors, pharmacists, nurses, spot these potential problem pills in someone's medicine cabinet.
Okay, so the logic here seems totally straightforward. If the drugs are the problem, well then the solution has to be to stop the drugs, right?
Now, we're not talking about just stopping a medication cold turkey. No way. This is a carefully planned process done with a doctor called deprescribing. It's all about safely reducing medications to cut down on potential harm.
And you know what? We can see this in action. Remember that study from Switzerland? Well, for those high-risk patients, they saw a big drop in these prescriptions, from 75% when they came into the hospital down to 63% by the time they left. So doctors are definitely making changes.
And it looks like the whole healthcare team is getting in on this. Basically, when a nurse pointed out, hey, this patient is a high fall risk, the rest of the team was much more likely to step in and stop those meds before sending them home.
So the case is closed, right? Find the risky drug, stop the drug, prevent the fall. It makes perfect sense. But here's where the story takes a massive plot twist. When researchers dug into the absolute best, highest quality evidence, they found something nobody expected.
Because it all boils down to this one crucial question. Okay, we know people are stopping these drugs, and we know why it should work. But does it? Does pulling just this one lever, stopping the pills, actually prevent people from falling?
The verdict from a huge review in a major medical journal was a clear and, frankly, pretty shocking no. They basically said that stopping these drugs, all by itself, seems to make little to no difference in the rate of falls.
And listen, this isn't just one study or someone's opinion. This conclusion comes from what's called a meta-analysis of randomized controlled trials, or RCTs. And in the world of medicine, RCTs are the absolute gold standard of evidence. It's the most rigorous way we have to prove that doing A actually causes B.
So what gives? How could something that makes so much sense be wrong? Well, the answer isn't that the drugs are suddenly harmless. It's that the problem is way more complicated than we thought. We've been oversimplifying it.
The truth is, falls are almost never caused by just one thing. The experts call it multifactorial. Think of it like this. Focusing only on meds is like plugging one hole in a boat that has 5. You haven't really solved the problem, have you?
So those risky pills, they're just one piece of a much bigger puzzle. We're also talking about things like poor strength and balance, vision problems, and even stuff in our own homes, like a slippery rug or a dimly lit hallway. All of it plays a part.
And you know what the evidence says does work as a single strategy? It's not stopping pills. It's exercise, specifically programs that boost strength and balance. That's where the solid, high-quality proof is.
So where do we go from here? Well, it all points to a much smarter, more complete strategy. It's not about ditching the idea of reviewing meds, but about seeing it as part of a bigger picture.
Let me be clear. Looking at a person's medications is still absolutely critical. There are lots of great reasons to stop a risky drug, but it just can't be the only thing we do. It has to be step one in a much larger, more personalized plan.
So what does that kind of plan involve? Well, it means a deep dive. Yeah, you review the meds, but you also check someone's strength, their balance, their vision. You look at their home for trip hazards, and importantly, you talk to them about what their goals are. You treat the whole person.
At the end of the day, we have to move past this idea of a single magic bullet. Falls are a complex problem, and the science is telling us loud and clear that they need a comprehensive solution that's tailored to each individual person.
And that leaves us with the big question, right? We have the playbook, we know what works, so how do we make this smarter, person-centered approach the standard of care for everyone at risk? How do we make sure every single person gets the comprehensive care they need to stay safe on their feet?